Joe Alter, my neighbor. Hi.
That's right. Hello. Thank you for having me.
Literally, I look at Joe's backyard from my back porch.
And parent at Field Grammar School, which you also look at from your backyard.
Well, I look at Old Field.
I'm at the new field, but I'm looking forward to enrolling my son at Eugene Field.
Yeah. So, Joe, what brought you into activism around the no additional charter seats group?
It's just, it's another attack on our neighborhood schools. Mm-hmm. So we found out really only a couple weeks ago that Chicago Math and Science Academy on Clark has requested or put in a proposal for additional seats, 100 additional seats, which might seem like a small number on the surface of it, but it's if you realize that $5,000 goes with every student, that's potentially $500,000 that we lose to the neighborhood feeder elementary schools and Sullivan High School. And in a time when CPS is broke and when we're really fighting for every last crumb,
right,
and we're fighting to keep our neighborhood schools growing and rising, and and this is a piece that people need to hear, they're doing great. Sullivan's on track to get level 1. We're really in a good position if we can continue to sort of support them
mm-hmm.
the way that they need, and we have to hold the line with charters in Rogers Park.
And of course, this is in the context of 62% of us last November saying no more charters.
Yeah. So we've talked about this before. Those who listen regularly know that this has been an issue. But why don't we, cutting to the chase here? What's the argument for more charters?
So this is what you hear from the charter advocates, which is, hey, we're actually offering more choice. We see no disadvantage to having more good schools in Rogers Park, and that's a really specious argument because there's not a level playing field. There's this idea that they're looking out, they're the real populace here, and they're looking out for the low-income students is just patently untrue. What actually happens with charter schools is that they take the cream off the top. They're getting families that have social capital, that are able to navigate the lottery process and put their kids into these schools. And then in turn, the charters are disingenuous because they're load shedding difficult students.
Load shedding.
Yeah, how's that?
Wow, I never heard that phrase. Yeah. That basically means kicking kids out of school that bring their numbers down.
Yeah, I mean,
or cause them to actually have to pay attention to a kid more than class time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you could counsel them out. There's all kinds of ways that they're able to cherry pick families. And the one piece that we don't hear about enough is that we're losing parent capacity. It's bad enough that we're losing the funding that goes with per pupil in CPS, but we're losing families that would have otherwise advocated for their neighborhood schools. And that to me, being an LSC member, being on the PAC at Newfield, that's the real tragedy. Losing these quality families.
That's a really good point.
Most charters, of course, don't have an LSC or even an advisory council where parents or teachers could advise the administration. These privately managed schools with public taxpayer resources are pretty much left to their own devices.
Yeah, I mean, we see time and time again that there's just no oversight. There's no adequate regulation of charter schools, and they're operating in a predatory manner. I mean, it just came out the other day that Noble charters illegally obtained mailing lists from CPS in order to poach students, not just from CPS neighborhood schools, but other charter schools. So, I mean, it's a business, and to portray it as having any concern with low social economic status families is just false on the face of it.
So when this week in Springfield you have State Rep Will Gazzardi proposing, I think it's called 5650 House Bill, to basically say no more charters. No more charters to an area like Chicago, which I forget the phrase they use, but basically fiscally challenged areas like Chicago. Why add to the craziness by adding more charter seats? Does that feel like, does that have any traction, first of all? Who are you fighting the hardest to be heard about this?
Well, we're fortunate, you know, in Rogers Park to have most of our electeds are behind this. So we've gone to Kelly Cassidy, Heather Staines, Jan Schakowsky, and we've gotten commitments. They've supported the charter freeze referendum, and we've gone to them on this as well. They're on this. We unfortunately don't have the support of our aldermen on this. But I mean, it's just clear that there's statewide, nationwide, there's an awareness that charters are bad news for neighborhood public schools.
Mm-hmm.
You know, full stop.
Yeah, yeah. Betsy DeVos, of course, being a major proponent,
Yeah.
and just made the commissioner of education.
And of course, the governor, who has a charter school named after him, is a big voucher guy.
Yeah.
The president of the Chicago Board of Education has a charter named after him, Frank Clark. So this is, we've got an unelected school board, which is another challenge. This whole
Right.
process is opaque. You know, we're parents, we're LSC members, we're community members. It's a really, really difficult process to navigate, to even find out how this is going to be heard, how this is going to be decided. So we're under the impression that there'll be a hearing with the Committee on Incubation and Innovation on April 12th. We haven't been able to confirm that. We've done a couple FOIAs, haven't gotten anywhere. But that's really the hearing in which this expansion request will be publicly heard.
So you guys, along with, I know that Betsy Vandercook out of Network 49 and the committee that has been working on this and that successfully put that referendum on the ballot last November. The only thing we cheered on that on election night was 62% saying yes to no more charters, no additional charter seats. You've also coalesced with a bunch of other groups, Raise Your Hand Coalition, and there's a new Facebook page, I think.
Oh yeah, thanks for mentioning it. So we started a Facebook page called Ya Basta.
Yeah, enough.
Enough already, enough charters, because it just seems we've gotten to that point where why does this keep getting presented to Rogers Park? You know, it just is ongoing, and we you know, so there's a kind of level of frustration that we wanted to just sort of indicate with that name.
Yeah.
And so we've been going to all our schools, all 5 elementary schools in Sullivan, with postcards and having parents sign it, pick up and drop off. And let me tell you, I haven't had a single parent, even parents who have kids enrolled
in charter
schools, in which, by the way, I would never question a family's decision to send their kid there for whatever reason.
Sure.
It's tough.
It's
the hardest decision, and the narrative right now is
rough.
Is very difficult for public schools to overcome reputationally.
Of course, we love it when guests bring visual aids, but Joe's currently holding up a brick's worth of cards. What do you got there?
Oh man, I think just between the 5 elementary schools in Sullivan, we've easily gotten 180 postcards. We've got an online version of the postcard, which I encourage your listeners from Rogers Park to sign. You can find that on our Facebook page, a link to that. We've got 50 electronic signatures on that so far, and we're going to continue to sort of make these postcards available in front of the schools as we talk to parents who are facing an agonizing choice, quite frankly.
Yeah. So, you know what, I can't help it, but our first guests, we were talking about racism in Chicago. Everything in Chicago is related to racism.
No question.
I mean, and this school thing, we watched it start years and years and years ago when the first Mayor Daley was in charge, and they put in, temporary classrooms in the black schools rather than integrate public schools. And I saw public schools being abandoned by the Daleys at that time, and by a lot of the city's leaders, because they sent their kids, like me, to Catholic schools. Now, Catholic schools have kind of disappeared. Charter schools seem to be coming in, but I can't agree with you more. I couldn't agree with you more that it is a resegregation process that is completely unacceptable.
This is what I am frustrated with our alderman's position, leading one of the more diverse wards in the city, that he would continue to go for the private interests, in this case, Chicago Math and Science Academy, an apparently successful academic program. But here's someone who's traveled to Turkey twice, by the owner-founders of this, and of course it's caught up in the whole international coup thing right now with Turkey. as apparently some members of the Trump administration tried to get Gulen, the leader who's hiding out in some forest in Pennsylvania, extradited to Turkey. I mean, the international implications of what we're trying to affect here in Rogers Park are pretty astonishing, and our alderman's right in the middle of it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like, Tom, you're right. There's all kinds of just, it's ugly when you sort of start to look into the parent company that operates CMSA called Concept Charters. They've got hundreds of schools all over the Midwest region. The fact is, it's a vertically integrated scheme that uses public money to manage real estate, to pay its own contractors, to buy HB1 visas, to bring in cheap labor from Turkey. They're clearly anti-collective bargaining. They've resisted and sued any effort to unionize the teachers at CMSA. But to Katie's point, it is a known fact that charters actually produce more racial isolation in neighborhoods that they go into through self-selection. And I couldn't agree more. How proud am I to be part of the Newfield community where we have 45 languages spoken, where we welcome new immigrants to this country with welcome arms. I always have to share this story because I think people don't hear the positive about CPS. CPS is a thought leader in social emotional learning. We welcome everybody, and I'll tell you what, CMSA does not. They have punitive, discipline. They don't have restorative justice. And this is the thing that unfortunately parents don't know when they see the shiny marketing materials and the postcards that they get and the uniforms. It looks good, but they have no obligation to take English language learners. Mm-hmm. They have 15% English less language learners than we do at Newfield. They don't serve special education adequately as we do at Newfield. So it really is it's a social justice, it's a civil rights issue. Our CEO of the schools is suing the state right now for not funding us. It's a civil rights issue.
It seems to me that until all of us, non-parents as well, begin to pay attention to the Chicago public school system, we will continue, and with a leader like the current mayor and the current governor, who each in their own different ways are not serving our school children.
It doesn't have to be this way.
It doesn't have to be this way.
It doesn't, and I point to, just on a ward level, look at Amaya Pawar over in the 47th. He got in 6 years ago and put schools first. Mm-hmm. That was the centerpiece of his approach, and he started Grow 47. 6 years into it, he's celebrating, creating these strong pipelines into Amundsen and Lakeview High School. These are desirable neighborhood attendance area schools. And he's countered that sort of selective enrollment or bus narrative that many parents sort of buy into in CPS. He's made these desirable places to enroll your kids because you know what? He knows this glues a community together. When we're losing population, that's what you do.
Yeah, and it's also perception. I mean, Amundsen and Lakeview were great high schools 30, 40 years ago. Right. When I first came to the north side from the south side, they were considered top-notch. And so it's a subtle mind-bending thing that happens when public schools are looked at as less than, or what you just referred to. And I applaud Amaya Pawar's efforts, but I also know that when you're in a diverse ward like the 49th, right, you need at least that kind of commitment, if not more. Because we have more diversity, and we have the kind of diversity that people have trouble with in Chicago. So,
our alderman issued a 6-page letter this week in response to people saying no more charters. And it seems to be, he's saying again, well, people deserve choice. And these are high-performing schools that we want to expand. It's not even clear to me that the increased seats will serve Rogers Park students. Right. Because, of course, Simpson can pull from anywhere, like any other charter school. So this choice thing, I think, is another canard, because choice is a popular word, but it's not clear to me that the real effect is going to be what he claims to desire.
It's choicing us to death. And it's really starving out the public schools, and it's a specious argument. He's a true believer in charter schools, and he's shown himself to be that time and time again. He stood in the chambers of city council last year, spoke out against using TIF surpluses to fund CPS. So he is not a friend of Chicago Public Schools. That's not a question.
Well, I assume that we'll get somebody running against him that is.
I think Rogers Park deserves that.
Yeah.
One last word on what people can do to help you in this effort?
Well, please go to our Facebook page, share it widely with all your friends and neighbors, and come out and visit the schools. Come to an LSC meeting.
And the Facebook page is?
Ya Basta in Rogers Park.
Enough already.
Joe Walter, a local education expert, thanks so much for giving us an update.
Thanks, neighbor. Yay.
That was fun.
You're listening to Live from the Heartland on WLUW 88.7 FM. Please listen to us online at livefromtheheartland.com and like us on Facebook. Another little musical interlude as we move on to our final guests.